We've got to talk about sort of like other films things that you worked on, like the Raymond Briggs things, but they were sort of like almost a decade later.
Well, more than that. I went to America in '76 to work on a film over there in Hollywood. My old friend Jimmy Murakami, who was an American animator, he had a studio, Murakami Wolf Swenson, in Hollywood, and they were doing a feature film called The Mouse and His Child, which I went over to work on. Well, not a famous film. It's won several awards though, funny enough, but it's my first grounding in American animation, and I loved Hollywood. I loved America, and I stayed. Well, I met my second wife then. She was a cell painter at Murakami Wolf, and we got married, and I stayed in America for 29 years.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. That's just a few years.
Doing a lot of commercials.
There was a lot more work out there, I was just...
Oh, yeah, it was then, yeah. And it was all 2D then, all drawn, you know, it wasn't before the dreaded computer came in.
Yeah.
To ruin the industry.
Oh, right. You've got firm opinions on that, have you?
I'm a Luddite, yes. No, I'm not really.
No.
I'm not going to progress, but at the same time, I think it's
people still yearn for this type of
2D is coming back slowly.
It is, yeah.
Because people are getting fed up with the 3D rounded puppet-like drawings that come out of Disney's and others. And I mean, they're great. The animation's still good.
Yeah.
But in the old days, we suggested 3D. You didn't have to show it. And once you show it, you give the game away. The magic is gone. It's not drawings anymore. They look like puppets. That's my opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm old-fashioned.
No. I've been looking at them recently and thinking the same sort of thing.
If you look at, say, my favourite film, Pinocchio, alongside anything done today, even by Pixar, I know which one I prefer. The animation was much better and the drawings, the animation was superb. The last great film made by Disney was Jungle Book.
Yes.
After that, when Disney died that year, 66, and after that it went downhill.
Yeah, there's some awful things after that. We don't want to talk about some of them.
I know.
I wouldn't go to some of them.
But I mean, I like what Pixar's done. There's one, the superhero one. What's it called?
The Incredibles.
Yes, that was well done. I can see where they were, but it doesn't all have to be 3D-ish, does it? Why?
No.
You know, I went to work at the Paddy Freeling studio in 79. Sorry, 79.
79, I was going to say.
I came back to work on the wall, didn't I? That's right. In 79, I came back to work on the wall. Pink Floyd's thing.
Gerald Scarf.
Yeah, he was the art director of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Mike Stewart was the animation director.
Oh, Mike Stewart again.
Yeah, my old mentor. Yeah, he got me the job in a sense. He put a will in for me, and I was flown over by Pink Floyd to England. They paid for it. And we worked out of Gerald Scarf's house in Cheney Walk, where he was there living as still is with Jane Asher, the actress. You know.
Oh, you named her.
I know, it's terrible. She was very lovely.
I think
she was a lovely lady.
Yes.
Still looks lovely too. Anyway, I worked on it for a while, not about 3 months, and had a bit of a, what's the word, a run-in with Jerry Scarf. Nothing really. I wanted to do more character animation, and they kept giving me these marching hammers to do.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, because the marching hammers is a kind of iconic scene in the film.
It's the thing that everyone remembers.
I know. It's ironic, isn't it? I didn't do all the marching hammers. There was another animator whose name I forget who did some of it as well. Mike Stewart directed it. I did a lot of the marching hammers. I got so sick and tired of doing these blooming marching hammers. And I said to Jerry one day that I need some animation to do, please. I'm a character animator, you know. And next day I went there and there was another marching hammer scene. And I threw it in the air. I was a bit bolshy in those days and I walked out. I quit the production. I regret it really, but there you go. And they never gave me credit on the film. There you go.
I've noticed your credits in these films, and I was actually looking at this film here, which is heavy metal.
Oh yes, yes.
Quite bizarre. What's the best way to
It is rather, yeah. But made in Canada mostly.
Really?
In Montreal, I believe.
Huge cult favourite though. Made in 81, I think, around then.
Yeah, I was then back in LA. Rob and I got a house in a place called Shadow Hills. Lovely place. And the phone rang, and it was an old friend called Jerry Potterton, English animator, lived in Montreal. And he asked me to work on it, so I did. Paid very good money. I was really impressed with the money. I was getting much more money there than I was doing on commercials in LA.
The idea behind it was it's from a comic book of some sort.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And I would have thought that the budget would have been fairly low, so you're saying it was a big thing.
Yeah, I'm not even a fan of heavy metal music, but anyway, I like rock and roll, but never heavy metal.
Yeah, I was going to say, some odd things in there, music-wise, but
I did the
working on a coal mine.
I think her name was Tarner, wasn't it? Her name was Tarner.
That's it, yeah, that sequence.
She flew in this dragon thing. I did some scenes of her. You know. That's 3 or 4 months. You know.
That's the major scene at the end. It's the major.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Where she, as you say, flies on a bird and kills the dreaded green orb.
I did a scene where she does cut a few people's heads off, and green blood flows out. I remember that. It's a long time ago.
Yes,
you were important then.
Yeah, I was watching it only a few days ago, just to sort of like remember that scene, and I was thinking, oh.
Was it green?
Yeah, it was.
There was a year between that, when I came back from the war to LA and heavy metal. There was a year or so where I worked for Daffy Freeling Studios. Fritz Freeling was one of the old Disney animators way back. He was old then, I worked with him. And he's a lovely man. One of the designers of Bugs Bunny, in fact. Warner Brothers animator, as well as Disney. I got a job there, and Gerard Baldwin, dear friend of mine, who eventually became the Smurfs producer, or director, sorry, got me a job on that, working on the Pink Panther series. And so I worked on that for a while, and what was scary was, 1980, how old would I have been? 37, still youngish. And I sat in the middle of this room, and all around me were my heroes, famous animators who worked on the Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck films.
Yeah.
You know.
They were working on Pink Panther.
Yeah.
Because it was big. The Pink Panther was a huge series.
Yeah, it was. It's a whole series going.
Late 70s.
So I was very nervous. Same with these great animators. You know? And they wouldn't talk to me. I mean, it wasn't until later they said they were nervous of me. What did they do? Oh God, it's ridiculous.
Gerald Scarford phoned up and said, yeah, he's a tough character, watch out for him.
Yeah. By the way, I missed out a whole thing I worked on years before that.
I was going to say,
I jumped from the Yellow Submarine to going to America.
Yeah.
There's a period where I worked with Richard Williams animation.
Really?
Again, it's so square.
You worked on Richard Williams stuff.
Yeah, I did for about 2.5 years.
Can I ask, did you work on the Scrooge?
Yeah, the Christmas Carol, yeah. Which finally got me into the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. I can now vote on the Oscars.
It's the one with Alistair Sim doing the voice and all that sort of thing, and this swooshing.
It wasn't Alistair Sim.
They've actually got Alistair Sim in there, and a few other favourites, but they got Michael Redgrave doing a voice at the beginning.
Yes, it was. That was a wonderful film because we actually kept to the. Was it Cruikshank's drawings? I think so. George Cruikshank, Dickens' artist. I think so. Dick stuck very avidly or closely to the original illustrations of Dickens' book. I think it was George Cruikshank. So we stuck to his drawing. Yeah, great film and a great director to work with. But it won the Academy Award that year. Dick came back from Los Angeles with the Oscar in his hand. And we were all there, a big circle of us, 15, 20 people, and we passed it around the circle. We'd all won the Oscars. It was very nice. And as I say, it got me eventually into the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So I can now vote on the Oscars.
That's still the case?
Yeah.
Wow.
But back to Dick Williams. I worked with him after that for about, he asked me then to work as a staff animator, which I did for the next 2 years until 74 or mid-74. But I finally left, went back to TVC, TV cartoons, where I was doing commercials then and made 3 times the amount. So it was a good move.
It's often the case, isn't it?
So for the next couple of years I worked at TVC with George Dunning and John Coates, did mostly commercials. And then this job in America came up, which I mentioned before. Jumping ahead again.
I was going to say, it kind of explains why these animators that you held in such high esteem and this sort of why they was a bit scared about talking to you.
I don't know, they were all in their 70s then. They were my age, I am now. Then I was 37, 8. I remember one guy was called Don Williams, lovely man. And he was the first one to come over. And I went over to ask him a problem with how to make the Panther walk, Pink Panther. Yeah. So a technical question. And he answered it. And then they all opened up. All the guys around, Bob Hertz and all that people, they all opened up and helped me. And so we were all friends after that. Well, was it a year? It wasn't even a year really. 9 months of my life. I worked on Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny eventually, a Daffy Duck special, a Bugs Bunny special, all these old Warner Brothers guys, and they were so helpful and wonderful people. Bob McKimson was one of the animators there at the studio, and he was up in his 80s by that time, I think, and he was an old Disney animator from way back. And they all went to lunch one day, and I couldn't make it for lunch that day, so they all went off to lunch. And they came back ashen-faced. I went, what's the matter? Bob died at lunch. He passed out into his tomato soup, you know. That was terrible. Oh. Yeah, great animator. And he was one of the forefathers of Bugs Bunny. Oh, God, stories. And then I worked, as you said before, on heavy metal.
What, 81, yeah?
Heavy metal. And then after that, for a long period of just working as a freelance animator, different studios in Hollywood, doing commercials. And there weren't enough commercials going around at the time. It was a bit of a lull in the business. So I went to Hanna-Barbera. And Gerard Baldwin, who was my producer on the Pink Panther show, got me interviewed, and I got into the studio, again as a freelance. And I worked on the Smurfs. And Gerard was the directing producer on the Smurfs. So I worked on the Smurfs. You know the Smurfs?
Because they've become popular again, so we went back and looked at the original ones, and now these are the cartoons. They might have only been shown in America.
It was a great period. It helped pay the mortgage anyway. We didn't pay very much. It paid £10 a foot. A foot of film is 16 frames, which is 8 drawings. You can hold a drawing for 2 frames. So I had to make 60 foot a week to make a decent wage, $600. But I could never quite make the 60 foot a week. I mean, they kept giving me scenes with 10 Smurfs in it, or more, 12 Smurfs. And it slowed me down a bit. I mean, I'm not slow, I'm not fast, average.
But you're sitting there going, I wish I had some hammers to...
But finally, just a long story, I got in trouble with William Hanna, of the studio. Yes, Hanna. And I can't remember the actual director I was working with. And he liked my work, but he said, you're too slow. I said, I'm sorry, I can't. There's 12 Smurfs in this scene, for God's sake. Give me something easier. Plus, they had a library system there, where if you wanted to make them walk, enter stage right, exit stage left, you had to go to the library and get a pre-animated scene by another animator, and then you could then chalk that up as your footage, you see. You could then cheat a bit. But whenever I went to the library, the scenes were out for somebody else, so I could never get those scenes. That slowed me down a bit too. So then I thought, well, bugger that. Sorry. I would then do it myself. I reanimate the scene. It was quicker.
Yeah. I
got in trouble for that. So anyway, finally, after a while, I left that studio, and I worked on ScoobyDoo there too, which was terrible. I hated those characters. I really did.
Why does all that kid either?
It all paid the mortgage, or helped to, anyway.
Yeah.
It was back in the mid-80s, 83, 4.
All being reshown now, and the children are now watching them.
Are they really? Oh,
so your stuff is being shown on cartoon.
What goes around comes around.
Yes.
I then went to work at another studio called Playhouse Pictures, again in Hollywood. Small family-orientated studio, run by one family, the Woolery brothers, Ted and Jerry Woolery, and Abe Woolery, their father, ex-Disney animator. A wonderful few years of my life. I started with them in '82, and I did the Flintstone commercials. Fred and Barney, the Flintstones. We did the Fruity Pebble and Cocoa Pebble series. And I love doing those characters. They're so easy to draw and lovely to draw. So I enjoyed that. Then in '85 I was called by TVC to come back to London. They pay my airfare, hotel, whole thing, to work on When the Wind Blows. Raymond Briggs.
Because by then Raymond Briggs was quite famous.
Yeah, he made the Snowman.
Yeah.
The film was made of his work, which I actually, sadly, Diane Jackson, who directed the Snowman, one of the animators on Yellow Submarine, she had phoned me up, I'm guessing 1980, I'm guessing, and then said that TVC would fly my wife and I back to London to work on the Snowman. But I had to turn her down and say, no, I can't. I've verbally agreed with a very dear friend of mine, Lee Michigan, to work on a film called Fairies, Fairies, a terrible film. But anyway, I couldn't let my friend Lee down, you see. I regret it in many ways. I didn't work on the Snowman. It's now an iconic film. Jimmy Murakami, who got me the job at Jimmy Murakami Wolf Swenson Studios back in the 70s, my first job in America, was directing this film by Raymond Briggs. For another year of my life, 84 to 85, I worked on that. I was kind of lead animator on that. Yeah, do the key scenes. And I love that film. I love it. I'll tell you one thing. I had to do this. I don't know if you know the story of it or what's about. The couple, the guy who gets the government pamphlet, Maggie Thatcher's pamphlet.
Yeah.
How to survive nuclear war.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Protect and survive or something like that.
Yeah. He got it from the local post office or whatever it was. Took it home and did everything it said in there. He took the doors off the hinges. He taped his windows up like in World War II, and the bomb drops. And the music in that film is incredible. Pink Floyd offered their services free to do the music, which he did. Yeah, amazing. A lot of people offer their services free because it's such an important film against the nuclear arms race. The Cold War is still going on in '85. The voices of Jim and Hilda were done by Sir John Mills and Dame Peggy Ashcroft. Wonderful. And John Coates said to me personally, he said when he went around to the recording studios with them on the first day of recording, they had the script for several months. They've been looking at them, and they went into the booth. It was always a glass booth, and they did it in one take. So professional were they in one take, an hour and 20-minute film in one take. And they came out of the recording room, and they were in tears. John Mills said, "John," he said, I don't ask us to do that again. It's the most horrendous, drenching film we've ever had to work on." He said it's so emotional, and it is. If you see, I don't know how many listeners have seen the film, it's worth renting. And I'd like to think it helped end the Cold War, because we sent copies to all the world leaders at the time, which would have been, I'm not sure, I think it was Thatcher then, Reagan, Brezhnev, was it? Yes. We sent copies to all different governments of that film, and to each MP, I believe. So maybe it helped end the Cold War.
John Mills used to say that he was emotional about that because he'd been in some amazing
war films too. Yes.
I'm thinking of those.
A wonderful actor.
Yes. Oh gosh. Yes.
I did the last few scenes where they're dying. Well, you don't actually see them die. You see them dying. Where the radiation sickness is taking over. There's a scene I did where Hilda's hair is coming out. Jim, my hair's falling out. It's so sad. They reminded me of my own parents. You see, at the time.
Trusting of the system.
Yeah, he's getting blood on his white shirt. She said, "Oh, Jim, I just washed that shirt." The writing, Raymond Briggs is superb.
Yeah,
should be knighted. Hopefully this year. Wonderful man.
Get that in.
Yes. And one of the great films of my life to work on. I was so proud to work on it. Now, I also worked on a film by John Birmingham, the designer, called Grandpa, for TVC. The little girl and her grandfather. And it's a wonderful book. It's a half-hour special. Yes. That was John Coates, the head of TVC. His favourite film, in fact, and mine too. I think it was directed by Diane Jackson, who, yes, it was, I think, and she died just after that of cancer, sadly. Only 52 or something. I mean, God, wonderful lady. She directed the Snowman.
But another Raymond Briggs one was Father Christmas.
I worked on that too. Yes.
Was that afterwards?
It was afterwards. Yes.
Yes.
And I love working on that too. That was fun.
Because when the wind blows, it was quite moving and overpowering.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Yes.
Whereas Father Christmas was a complete contrast. It's humour. Did Mel Smith play?
Mel Smith. He did the voice of a Cockney Father Christmas. Every other word was bloomin'. Bloomin' this, bloomin' that. So it was great. Yeah. I did a scene where he's in a French restaurant ordering English food in a French restaurant. He wants chips and les frites, les stew. And I did this very camp French waiter. I'm quite proud of animation. And I also included in the foreground is a scene where a long distance shot of the table where Franklin is sitting and ordering his food, and there's this foreground shot of John Coates, our producer. I put him in the film with Hilary Aldous, the rear view of her. She eventually directed The Snowman and the Snow Dog. Anyway, and they're sitting at this table, and John sputters into his drink when Franklin says, "Got any ketchup, mate?"
Right.
Where's that effect? I can't remember actually. Monsieur the ketchup, yeah. And then there's a scene after that where he gets a lot of brandy at the end of the scene, and he gets the bill, and it's all swirling, and then he has to head back to his trailer, his caravan, his sled really, designed as a caravan, and he's drunk. There's a scene where he's walking back home. I'm as what there's a new, and I enjoyed that.
Were you still in America, flying back to Britain to do this?
Back and forth, all those films.
Because you were in America for about 30 years.
20, roughly 20 years. And I flew back every couple of years. I flew back to work on something.
The things you flew back for, I mean, you did the Pink Panther and ScoobyDoo, God bless them, and things like that. But you seem to be more proud of the things you flew back to England to work on.
I'm actually, yeah.
Apart from the Flintstones.
I like the Pink Panther and the Flintstones, but the other stuff was just have to pay the rent, the mortgage. But the stuff I did in England, I'm very proud of. The English animation industry is under recognised. We've done some fantastic films. John Coates died, I think, 2 years ago. A wonderful producer, and I think he should have been knighted the way he did for British animation. And I don't know, I just felt he kept the industry alive. And it's mostly dead now in England. It's all computer animation.
We'll talk off mic about this, but
sure,
I think it will come back, and there's reasons why I believe it will come back. There was something that more recently came up, and I thought, he worked on that.
In the 90s?
More recently than that, even, I think it was.
I worked on a thing called Japanese Pop Stars.
Japanese pops? Let's go on then. I don't know about one.
Sort of a rock video thing. Yeah. That was the last thing I did, in fact. I think about 2 or 3 years ago. That's the last thing I've animated. I guess I'm retired.
Are you retired?
I don't want to be. Then,
So if a phone call came?
I wanted to work on second Snowman. Snowman and the Snow Dog.
Yeah.
Regret not working on that. I think I could have done it justice. But
I think you would have.
It didn't turn out to be as good as the first one.
I've got to admit, I've seen the Snowman 100 times, and Snowman and the Snow Dog I've seen 1.5 times, I think, probably. So that probably tells you everything you need to know.
Yes. I'm checking what I worked on in the 90s. I can't remember.
Daffy Duck, heavy metal.
Oh, I did a commercial.
Daffy Duck's Easter show, 79 to 80.
Yeah.
They know all about you on the internet.
I know they do.
Yeah.
Who puts all this stuff down? Who collects this information?
Well, this is what I was going to move on to, actually. And,
it's nice to be Google, but I don't know who does it.